Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine. How you doing? I'm having a chamomile lavender tea from, I think it's called Traditional Medicinals. It's a mouthful, but the tea is very nice, and I'm using a mug from a website called Doodlephant, and it's people that I know that do these designs. They do mugs, they do greeting cards, stickers, T-shirts, probably other things that I can't remember. I think tote bags too. I could be wrong. Um, but as you can see, this is an owl. I love a good bird on a mug, and there's a scripture in the back. It says, "Ask, please, the birds of the heavens, and they will tell you." Job 12:7. So, and the bird's looking a little like, really? What? I don't know. But yeah, so a lot of these designs have some kind of scripture related to it. Not all, but I will put the website in the description box if you want to have a look. And but I will not share. Well, you already know traditional medicinals probably. So I am doing a wrap up for March Mystery Madness. There it is. I got it out. And I had done a TBR over a month ago, and I had shown 4 books that I planned to read, and I read all of them. So I'm pretty happy about that. And 2 of them were library books, 2 of them were books that I owned. So that was pretty even. I'm trying to read more of the books that I own, but that's pretty good for me. And so let's get started. I'll show you the books. This was The Incident of the Book in the Nighttime by Vicki Delaney. It's a Sherlock Holmes bookshop mystery, although you really don't see the bookshop very much. It's you hear about it because most of the main characters, which the mainest character is Gemma Doyle, are in London for this story because of a family wedding. So you see again Gemma's family, including her friend, is also coming with her. Jane, who is her friend and kind of business partner, and Donald, who is a friend who I think used to be a lawyer but is now completely a big Sherlock Holmes fan, dresses up like him, knows all these facts, of course reads all the books, and is just, I mean, of all places to go, London's the best place, right? So she goes to this wedding, and when she's leaving, she runs into her ex-husband, who she used to be married to, and they used to own a bookshop together. I think it was a mystery bookshop, and not far from Trafalgar Square, if you need a little landmark there. And he had cheated on her, so obviously she was done with him. But he sees her and says something along the lines of, there's something that he found that he wants to show her, or something along those lines, and she thinks it must be some kind of book. But when she goes to visit him at his bookshop, it turns out that he is murdered. And so she investigates, and her friends help her out, but she obviously figures out what happened and puts herself in some danger. But she's meeting all kinds of characters, like, well, re-meeting some people, like his ex-girlfriend, who was the one he had cheated with her, and other people who were in his life that were maybe, friends with him at some point or whatever, and then, people who were involved in some kind of business situation. And it wasn't entirely realistic what happens there, the way it turned out. It didn't make sense that someone would, well, I don't want to tell you what happened, but to me, the motives didn't seem extremely strong to get to that point. But then again, people have their reasons for doing some not great things. I just liked it because it, my vicarious London trip here. I like it when it takes place in West London, Connecticut, in not Connecticut, Massachusetts, Cape Cod. Anyway, I get them mixed up. I don't know why. But when she's home, usually her great uncle Arthur tends to be on the road. You never see him. And now he's in, running the bookshop, and also injured. I think he hurt his ankle or something. And so once again, you don't see him because now he's on the other side, and he texts her and stuff, but it annoys me. That's the one thing I don't like about the series, is this person that never actually shows up. I never liked that in TV shows. So I don't like that in books. It wasn't enough for me to hate the book, but it was just frustrating, because it's just frustrating. It's not realistic to me. But it was a very entertaining, a nice, pretty quick read, and I'm going to continue in the series, because it's just enough of a cozy experience for me, and I love a cozy mystery. So next is quite the classic. It's an Agatha Christie. It's nice to incorporate Agatha Christie into any mystery related situation, because she's the queen. And it's Hickory Dickory Dock. So this is a book. Yes, Freddie. He sees the mice. That's what he sees, right, Freddie? Yeah. So this is, yes, it's a Poirot mystery, and it opens up with Poirot being a little puzzled because his assistant, his secretary, whatever you call her, Miss Lemon, who doesn't feature in a lot of Poirot stories, but she's big in the David Suchet adaptation. She's played by Pauline Moran, so they make a whole character out of her there. But here she is a very efficient, excellent worker who never makes a mistake, and she's done some typos, so he's confused. You sneezing? Oh, Freddie. Oh, it's allergy season. So it turns out her sister works as I don't know what you call it, housekeeper or whatever, in Freddie's just distracting me, in this house that mostly houses students, and there have been thefts, and so it's been distracting. And so Poirot investigates, and eventually there are some murders, and some inspectors get called in, but Poirot works along with them as well. He's not there every moment, but he is behind the scenes looking into things, and he figures it out, as he always does. And it doesn't have Hastings in there, but that's okay. And it doesn't have Inspector Japp, who is a pretty recurring character. And in the adaptation, he was very much a big part of this story, but that's okay too. And it takes place in a different decade than the adaptation took place. But the whodunit is still the whodunit. And it was exciting enough. I don't think it was her best of the Poirot stories, but it definitely wasn't a bad one. There were a lot of characters, and there were in, the TV show too, but they removed a few. And at first I thought, oh, well, they took out these characters. Why would they do that? In a way, I think it simplified it, but also they were using a lot of stereotypes in the book that at the time was of things. And they were trying to show that there weren't always good stereotypes, but still, maybe it made it too complicated for something that was being adapted in the late 90s, I believe, maybe 2000. So I get it. But it was a satisfying enough ending. It was not overblown. It wasn't necessarily cozy, even though it has almost a similar setting to another book, but that I read this month, or last month. But it was good. I don't know how to put it. It was I wouldn't say it was like her worst story at all. If it was like a middle, it would probably be upper middle for me. I think most of these are upper middle to me. Freddie, don't fall asleep on my books. So moving on to a book that is not probably going to be my favorite of this series either, but definitely not bad. Ow. Freddie. Sorry. Very distracting today. Cats and birds today. So this is Christopher Fowler, who I still miss. He, died a couple of years ago now. And was it a couple of years ago? Maybe 2 years, I think. Ugh. Time is going really fast. And I got into his series back in, I don't remember what year now, maybe 2013, 2014. So that was already kind of toward the middle. This is one of his earlier books. I read these out of order, and I don't mind. But this is 10-Second Staircase. It's around 2006, 2007, I think. And it takes place in that present time. Because some of the books go back to, the Blitz. Some go back to the 1970s or 1960s. This one is solidly in its contemporary time, wherein the main characters, Arthur Bryant and John May, are elderly detectives in this long-running peculiar crimes unit that is always being threatened to shut down by some higher powers that be, and it always ends up surviving, but it's always a crisis. So it's a little repetitive, but that's okay. This time, there's two main problems that don't have everything to do with the actual murder case. One is that Arthur Bryant is feeling insecure because he gives a speech in front of some students and he feels like he doesn't understand the young folk anymore and they don't understand him. And that's not really good. You have to be able to understand the minds of people when you are investigating crimes. So, but then also John May has a granddaughter who has been staying at home for a good chunk of time, and he wants to take her out of herself and her home and have her work at the unit and help out with things. And so there is something that happens that is a little tied in with the reasons why she has these problems. So that's interesting because I've only seen the tail end of what happens with her, and so I was kind of glad to see a little bit of the background. And then the main crime is that there are some celebrities, if you want to call them that, rather somewhat famous people, TV personalities, etc., who have had some kind of scandal or something happen, and they are found murdered. And some of the murders are a little convoluted and a little like, how did that happen? And people are saying they are seeing a highwayman. I was going to say Highlander. Highwayman, which in the past were these people who would come and rob, I guess, stagecoaches or whatever, of their valuables. And they were kind of violent people sometimes. And so it's a bit of a legend of old English history. And so that is up Bryant's alley. But is this person really a highwayman? What is their motivation? And who is behind it? And is it the person that you think it is? Because I thought it was somebody, and then there was some involvement and some explanation for that involvement, but it turned out a little different than I expected. So I enjoyed it well enough. I liked the way it was resolved, although as a lot of these stories happen, you don't exactly know what's going to happen to the perpetrators in the long run. And I kind of want to know. That's why I think I like those kind of shows like Law and Order. You see the crime, the body, whatever. You see the investigation, and then you see the person apprehended, and then you see the trial. And then even if you don't hear the sentence, you at least know whether, something's going to happen. Anyway, but that's okay. And it was a good solid read. And this is not my favorite format of books, but it doesn't matter. It was still nice. So yeah, I liked it. Like, again, all of these books, none of these were like, I am so thrilled that I read these books, but they don't have to be. Most of them are just cozy mysteries, or somewhat cozy. Don't hit me, Freddie. My cat is abusing me. Freddie. I don't think, yeah, I can see his little face. I don't know what he wants. I think he wants food, even though I did feed him. It's never enough, Anyway, last but not least, another World War II era book that I'm not that into World War II like some are, but I'm not against it, reading about it. London during the Blitz has always been a fascinating thing to me because it was just, I don't know, kind of a thing to survive. But this is Murder by Matchlight by E.C.R. Lorac or Lorac. Not sure. I always forget. But this is a writer that I read last year's Death of an Author. But this is the first one I've read of her Inspector MacDonald series. And I don't know if I'm probably not reading the first one, but I think I want to read more. And Inspector MacDonald isn't that quirky or anything. Just an intelligent inspector who knows how to get to the truth in the ending. The premise is that there is a man during, the nighttime blackouts who goes into a park and it's just, wandering around, and it's very dark. He hears some things, and then someone lights a match, and in that quick match light, he sees a face, bit of a strange face. And then it turns out there is a murder, so he realizes he saw the murderer. So now Inspector McDonald needs to figure out, first of all, who is this person that was murdered? Who really is this person that was murdered? And of course, who murdered this person? And there are many suspects, of course, but in trying to figure out this identity, he goes to the last residence of this person, whose name is, at first, John Ward. I don't want to get into too much of the story, but he has lived in this place with for a little bit of time, and his neighbors are all a variety of people. And most interesting to me are this couple, the Ramseys. They're performers, and they're pretty brilliant, so they're fun characters, and it's a little bit cozy despite the whole Blitz time period. Bombs getting dropped and people losing everything, and some people dying from these things, and people being sent off to war. Not a happy time, of course, but there is just something about getting to know all the people, and what did people have against this person? What caused this person to be put in a position where someone wanted to end their life? And it goes, they do figure out this person's entire history and what they, anyway, I don't want to get into what exactly this person did to make people or persons want to kill them. You know what sometimes happens when there is someone, a victim, who is not a likable person, and that happens in a lot of mysteries where someone gets murdered and they're not really beloved. You can see why other people want to kill them. It's like, do you really want to find out who did it? But then justice. It's not right to kill somebody. So that's what I always thought is interesting about detective novels, is that it does kind of search into you a little bit of the psychology. Are you rooting for the killer? Right? And so you can question that. So I liked it. It wasn't too over the top. I always like these stories with these, like I said, it's similar to Hickory Dickory Dock, with all these people who kind of live near each other, who have to have shared space, and they may be very different people and may not always understand each other. Both Hickory Dickory Dock and Murder by Matchlight both have times where there's some stereotypes, racial things that are said that are best left unsaid nowadays. And that's why, I guess, with the with the adaptation of this one of Hickory Dickory Dock, where they took some of that out. In this case, there wasn't a ton of it in Murder by Matchlight, but there was a little bit of the Irish prejudice happening, which I'm not crazy about, but the sad thing about people is that there's always going to be people in this world who don't like each other, who mistrust each other, who have preconceived ideas about people. So it's part of the story. Anyway, so those are the 4 books that I read, and all of them were good, that I would recommend enough to others to read. If you don't like reading books out of order, then I wouldn't start with, any of them. But I still say these are all 4 series that I would encourage you, possibly, if this sounds at all up your alley, to get into. So that's the Sherlock Holmes Bookshop Mystery series. There is the Peculiar Crimes Unit / Bryant and May series, the Inspector MacDonald series, and of course the Poirot series. So a lot of mysteries are series, so that's okay. And that is all for now. I've talked enough. Let me know if you've read any good mysteries recently, if you read any good London mysteries, or any London books recently, because I love to know. And if you have anything to recommend, or if any of these books have come your way, and if you have any opinions on them. And that is all for now. If you like talking about mystery novels or history books, both fiction and nonfiction, or some classics, especially British classics, but other ones as well, maybe some nature writing, I'm trying to think of what else, books about books, then please subscribe. And if you've not watched this channel before, you're welcome, and please come again. So, this is Catherine at Taking Tea with Catherine. Have a lovely tea and book-filled day. Bye.